There are 6 nutrients that the human body needs to function, and they're carbohydrates, fat, and protein. And then the other ones are vitamins, mineral, and water. The carbs, fat, and protein provide energy and build and repair the tissues of the body, while the vitamins, minerals, and water are helpers, so they assist with all the functions of the human body. In this PowerPoint, we're going to discuss the role and function of all of them and how much of them each we should be consuming. First, we're going to talk about carbohydrates, and that should be a little bit more than half of all the food you eat in one day. The primary function of a carbohydrate is to provide the body with energy. In fact, the central nervous system, including the brain, can only use carbohydrates for fuel, while the muscles, when they're doing their work, could be fueled by both carbohydrates and fat. So it's important that we provide the energy for the human body. The best options of carbs to be eating would be whole grains that are unprocessed, such as quinoa, brown rice, wild rice, oats, and whole grain products, as well as another complex carb that's important are vegetables. Things we want to avoid are processed sugars, like anything made with high fructose corn syrup or anything made that has been processed with sugar. We can consume some fruit and dairy that has carbohydrates as well. So a little bit more than half the food we consume in one day should be carbs, mostly whole grains and veggies, with a few fruit and dairy as well. The next nutrient we'll talk about is fat, and about 20% of the foods we eat in a day should be fat. Best options would be the polyunsaturated fats. You may have heard of them as omega-3 or omega-6 fatty acids. In the omega-3 fatty acids could be found in fish, vegetable oils or fish oils, nuts, seeds, whole grains, some vegetables, and sea vegetables. Those are the best options. The one we want to avoid or minimize the saturated fat, which is the solid fat found in animal products, also in dairy products. We want to minimize the amount of saturated fat we find in products like that, and try to avoid all trans fat whatsoever, and that's listed on a label as partially hydrogenated oil. But fat is a very important nutrient to consume because its primary function is to provide the muscles with energy as well as to insulate and secure the body. It maintains the integrity of the brain so that we don't have dementias or mental illnesses through life. And it also transports the fat-soluble vitamins. So it's an important nutrient, and we can try to get all of our fat content from polyunsaturated fats. And the last energy-providing nutrient would be protein. About 20% of what we eat in a day should be protein. The best options are fish, poultry. There are some non-animal sources in plants, nuts, and seeds, or beans are a good source. And we can also find some protein in dairy. One of the best dairy options might be cottage cheese. So just try to get leaner type proteins in about 20% of everything we eat in a day. I always advise individuals to get their vitamins and minerals from the foods that they eat rather than a supplement. So 100% of the recommended daily allowance we could get from our foods, and those are all the colorful, pretty fruits and vegetables. It's also in nuts, seeds, fish, and whole grains. When we see naturally colorful foods, we could assume that they're loaded with vitamins and minerals. Try to get from 5 to 10 servings combined of produce per day. So 5 to 10 servings of fruit and vegetables combined would be a good start. A couple handfuls of nuts and seeds, and then make the carbohydrates that we're consuming whole grains. Water is the last of the 6 nutrients, and we should be drinking somewhere around 10 cups per day. It's important to have all the reactions of the human body that are going to be occurring do so in water, so we have to maintain our hydration. If we are properly hydrated, then our metabolism will run properly, we'll have strength, and we'll have energy, and we could get that not only from drinking water, but also the foods we eat have lots of water in them. Fruits and vegetables are primarily water, so we could assume that if we're eating our adequate number of fruits and vegetables of produce that we are getting a good source of water as well, but try to aim for 10 cups a day. When we talk about nutrients within a cultural aspect, we find carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, as well as the vitamins, minerals, and water that come with them. We find that in all different cultural foods. It's just that different cultures consume them in different food products or different ways of cooking. So our discussion this week, we're going to talk a little bit about what kind of foods you eat and which of the 6 nutrients are found in those foods. So think, what kind of foods culturally are you consuming that have carbohydrates, that have protein, and how is that different maybe from other cultures. But now we'll just cover a few rules in terms of nutrition to stay healthy. We're going to try to eat natural foods, those that are picked directly off the plant, the way we should be consuming them in terms of our carbohydrates. Avoid processed foods. We have to use common sense when it comes to food intake. I think most of us know what is the difference between a healthy food and a not so healthy food. But if 80 to 90% of all the foods we eat in a day is healthy, we're doing great. We can't be perfect, so sometimes that we may have a junk food or something we deem as a little less healthy, but that's okay as long as most of the foods we eat are whole and natural. We don't need to take any supplements if we are eating properly, and we could get all the nutrients that our body needs from pretty much following the food groups or the recommended food intake from fruits, vegetables, grains, dairy, and protein. One of the goals in every society is to have a healthy population, and that begins with having normal body composition. Rather than step on a scale and look at our weight, one thing we're trying to focus on in the health world is composition, in which about 60% of the human body is water. Females have about 20 to 28% body fat would be normal. Males, 10 less than that, so about 10 to 18% body fat is normal, and then the rest being lean mass. So we're trying to get people to understand that in order to be healthy, we need to have a normal body composition or normal body fat. And in order to get to normal body composition, to maintain it at that level, individuals need to do three things. We need to eat healthy, do cardiovascular exercise, a minimum of 30 minutes of active moving per day, and then do resistance training where we're exercising our muscles to fatigue at least twice a week. But in order to get to normal body composition, those three things need to be done consistently. And if we do find an individual who is overweight or overfat, chances are one of those three things is missing or lacking or could be done in a more productive manner. Individuals should aim at eating a wide variety of food if it's available culturally and available to the individuals in society, so that we get plenty of different nutrients, which would entail lots of vitamins and minerals. The core of the diet should be whole grain products and vegetables. These things will contain a very small amount of our healthy polyunsaturated fat, as well as tons of vitamins, minerals, and fiber. We want to avoid processed foods, especially anything with processed sugar in it, sucrose or high fructose corn syrup. Processed foods are nutrient deficient, and an individual who continually eats processed food will often be hungry and have an appetite that doesn't ever quiet down. When we consume the healthy nutrients like the fibers, whole grains, polyunsaturated fats, that will signal to our brain that we have a nutrient-dense food, that we have fulfilled the need of the body in those healthy nutrients, and then the appetite will shut off. But if only processed foods are going in, we don't get the nutrients we need, and the person often is always hungry. We also want to minimize salt. We do have to have it in our diet, but about 2,000 milligrams a day is sufficient and nothing more than that. When we're eating lots of processed food or eating at restaurants and fast food joints, usually lots of sodium are in those processed food, and that is how individuals continually go over that 2,000 milligram day mark. But if we're eating whole natural foods, there shouldn't be an issue with getting that high. Half of our diet should be fruits and vegetables, and I want to emphasize that at this point in time, lots of other cultures eat what's available to them or what they grow. If we could aim at consuming 5 to 10 servings of fruit and vegetable each day, that would be a good start to a diet. So a little bit more than half should be fruits and vegetables, and then we're going to throw in some whole grains, some protein, and we would get those healthy fats in those foods as well. Try to have a minimum of 3 per day, but going up to at least 10. Alcohol has been around for ages, and in different cultures there's different types that individuals drink, but we want to limit it or keep it in moderation. If we look at different cultures, oftentimes they will drink alcohol with their meals. However, it's usually 1 glass at each meal or 1 to 2 glasses per day at most. So lots of cultures don't emphasize more than that and pretty much look down on anyone who has been drunk. But different alcohols used differently in different cultures. We have to look at the aspect of it in terms of our health socially as well as physically, and limit the amount in our diets, because alcohol does cause disease, and the it's one of the number one carcinogens in our society, in which alcohol does cause cancer. So we want to minimize the chances of that. We would avoid alcohol. What I have listed here are the food groups: fruit, vegetables, whole grains, meats, dairy, and nuts and seeds. We want to eat natural foods without preservatives in them, and that's going to give us tons of vitamins, minerals, fiber, and water. Try to aim at 5 fruits per day, 5 vegetables per day. For the grains, usually we get about 8 to 10 servings of grains per day in our food plate. Most of them should be whole grains, so unprocessed, that also include the fiber and the healthy germ within the grain. As far as our protein foods go, maybe 2 to 3 servings of protein foods, and that could come from lean meats, nuts, seeds, beans, and then about 2 to 3 servings of dairy per day. Depending on the individual, it could be the lower fat amount. I don't recommend no fat dairy, but maybe the lower fat, or just eat it in moderation, 2 to 3 servings, but no more than that. If a person's eating healthy, they do not need supplements of any sort. Especially, we do not need any supplement that is not one of the 6 primary nutrients: carb, protein, fat, vitamin, mineral, or water. So if it's something other than that, it's not needed by the human body. The body's just going to excrete it. If we eat healthy and we follow all the food groups and we eat whole natural foods, even vitamin and mineral supplementations wouldn't be needed. Even for highly active individuals, if they eat healthy food, they don't need protein supplements. A lot of these supplements are out there just to make the corporations that sell it money. And if we did eat healthy foods, again, 80-90% of the foods we're consuming healthy, then it would actually be a waste of money just to have those supplements. It's wise just to eat as little processed food. If we can't recognize the words on the ingredient label, it's something we shouldn't be eating. In fact, most of the foods we should be eating don't even have an ingredient label. The whole foods, seeds, nuts, fruits and vegetables, meats, things like that, don't even have labels on them. So we want to avoid anything that's refined or processed or enriched, and eat more of the natural foods. And at this point in time, I want you to think about what cultural foods you're eating and what nutrients are found in those cultural foods. Again, the nutrients are in the diet of all different cultures all over the world, just in different formats and different types of foods, or the way they're preparing those foods. So in our discussion, we will explore that.